everybody, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew. You can see by the title, this one's called Venezuela, Energy, and the End of the Old World Order. A lot of different theories about what the heck just took place within the last couple of weeks in Venezuela. We're going to be breaking that down for you on today's program. But listen, before we jump in to today's show, I need to take a moment because this matters. So a few months back, we stepped out in uncharted territories with huge faith for us. And we told you that we were believing God for $120,000 for this acceleration campaign to build the next season, the next phase, the next level of this show. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, you can't, whenever you're at this scale, you can't have everything lined out. You know, we didn't have it guaranteed. We literally just obeyed. And I want you to know that as of late December, we raised the full $120,000. And oh, ye of little faith, and I'm talking about myself, I thought, God, I feel like you're telling us to do it, but I don't see, this is huge. We never tried to attempt anything at this magnitude of this scale before. And God is so faithful. God is so faithful. And because of that, I can also tell you something else. Andrew Bellers just put in his notice, and he'll be stepping in full time with this ministry the first week of February. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. We're going to be continuing this show. We're going to be starting the new Revelation show. We're going to be doing a new podcast for the millennials and Gen Z. Lots of back end work. And it's so exciting. I'm so excited. I'm so unbelievably grateful for every single person that sowed a seed into this ministry. I say it all the time, and I mean it with my entire heart. We literally could not do what we do without God and without his faithful people standing with us. Andrew's going to be here first week of February. He's actually going to be here over the next couple of weekends because I am going to be going on a missions trip to Peru. And, you know, it's crazy. I've been in ministry since I was 18. I've done a lot of traveling for ministry work. I've done a lot of overseas traveling for ministry-related work, but I've never been on a missions trip. And I just felt convicted about it several months ago, and an amazing opportunity came up with my local church body. And be praying. I'll be leaving, I don't know when you're watching the show, but I will be leaving January 16th, and I won't get back until around January 28th. We're going to be going deep into the Peruvian jungles. We've partnered with missionaries on the ground there. One missionary is a wonderful man, and he's been ministering to his local body there in the Peruvian jungles, and they need help building a church. So me and 6 other guys, we're going to be flying into Lima, Peru, then getting on a little plane to the jungle, then a bus ride, and then we are going to be taking a little boat up the Amazon River. It's an 8-hour boat ride, deep, 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 completely off the grid into the Peruvian jungles, and we'll be staying there. I've never done anything like this before. It's always been organized, and I like organized in the sense of business structured, right? And I'm really excited. I really think that we're gonna be able to do wonderful things for these people, but I feel like God is gonna do a work in all of our lives. And I just feel like so many things are changing, and the timing of this was just so amazing. And I'm really excited. We're gonna be talking about Venezuela today, right? So, you know, you have Colombia and Brazil in between Venezuela and Peru, but just still keep me and the whole team in your prayers during that time. Andrew's gonna be here during the weekends to be filming those programs while I am in Peru. Yes, just keep us in your prayers. Listen, we're gonna put it on the screen just in case you have had your head in the sand these last 2 weeks. There is so much to cover, and it's all going to make sense at the end of this program. We're gonna be running 3 or 4 clips. The most important one is going to be the last clip, because we've got to set the stage like we always do. Got to set the stage. So let's start off with the easy stuff, just in case, like I said, you have not been paying attention to what in the world is going on. The who, what, when, where, and why, and also what the media is saying. So put it on the screen. So here's the last 2 weeks. Quick reset before we talk meaning let's talk just straight facts. The WHO, the US, Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro, China, and US adversaries indirectly tied to Venezuelan energy. What? The US conducted targeted military strikes tied to Venezuelan-linked threats and revoked oil waivers that allowed Venezuela to sell crude internationally. When? Over the past 2 weeks, escalating from sanctions enforcement to direct military action. Where? Operations tied to Venezuela and its regional network within the Western Hemisphere. What happened first? Venezuela continued exporting oil despite sanctions. China and others remained major buyers. The US ended exemptions that allowed that flow. Then, military strikes occurred, markets reacted immediately, media coverage exploded. Media says, this is all about Trump's ego. It's reckless escalation, it's imperialism, it's unnecessary because we don't need the oil. Others say it's about climate change, it's about punishing Maduro, it's about oil companies. Reality right now, no one agrees on the motive. The public conversation is fractured and the official explanations don't line up cleanly. 3 or 4 clips today, I'm telling you, that I dove into this head first. I was keeping up to date with, obviously what was going on with it over these last several months and even a couple of years. I feel like I found the best explanation, and I just stopped what I was doing. I said, this is it. This is it. This is like what it was. These things were in my head. Perfect. 3 or 4 clips. Last clip, you're going to want to see. Everybody's talking about Venezuela like it's one-dimensional. Okay, right? It's oil. It's about oil or drugs or terrorism or Trump's ego or imperialism. And the reason that argument never goes away is because it is literally all of those things at one time, right? So it's like we're arguing and it's semantics because we're actually all agreeing and it's everything at one time. Venezuela is not the story. Venezuela is the intersection point, okay? And you're gonna understand. What just happened there only makes sense if you understand energy, power, global systems, and why this administration is not managing decline anymore. All right, so I'm gonna play a long breakdown from Glenn Beck. Glenn lays this out better than almost anyone I have heard. And before I play him, I want you to hear this idea for me first, okay? So you understand what you're listening for. This administration is different. All right, it's not reacting, it's not apologizing, it's not managing decline. It is not managing decline, all right? It's acting like America still has the right to win. Take a listen.
I want to give you a completely, I think, different perspective on what happened in Venezuela. Let me just say this. It is not about the oil. It's not about drugs. It's not about terrorism. It's not about China. It's not about communism, Marxism, or socialism. It's about all of those things. So if anybody tells you that this is really all about the oil, just listen to them because they might have a very good point on the oil thing and go, okay, well, that's cute. But that's not all it's about. So let me tell you exactly. This is the first time in my lifetime that we have a president who is not reacting, not managing America's decline, not trying to stabilize a collapsing system. Trump is doing something I have never seen any president do. He is playing to win. And I mean win all of it.
That phrase, okay, playing to win. This is not about being reckless or aggressive. It's about posture. For a long time, American leadership has acted like the global system itself was just untouchable, right? Like our job was just to keep it running, even if it was broken. Now, that is not how it always was, but that's how it's been. And if that mindset can be destroyed, and I hope it can, if that mindset is gone, if leadership no longer, believes we have to preserve a broken system at all costs, then a lot of what we're seeing isn't shocking. But suddenly it makes sense. Here's where this stops about being about Venezuela and starts being about the entire world order. Listen to how Glenn explains what the world is breaking into and why this moment matters.
Donald Trump has been saying America first, his entire life. It's been a slogan. It's been the way it's his worldview, and it always has been. And whether you like it or not, you like his style or not, you can't deny this truth. The world is splitting apart. And on one side, you have the communists, you have China and parts of the Western hemisphere that are going communist. You're seeing it in New York. OK, you also have Islamism. This is stretching from Iran throughout the Middle East, and it is also beginning to sweep here in America and beginning to sweep in Europe. You also have authoritarianism, Russia and its satellites. Got it? You also have, and this was what we were left with on all other presidents, you have the discredited globalist middle, this mushy, bureaucratic, elitist system that promises peace and prosperity and delivers nothing but debt, decay, censorship, instability, and war after war after war. That has been discredited, and that is totally collapsing. So what are we going to be? This is so important that you understand this, because this will change the way you view the entire world. What are we going to be? If that mushy middle isn't working, then what are we going to be? Europe has decided they're going to go more fascistic. They're going to go to a global government, and the government is going to control everything, including business. Okay, that's fascism. Like it or not, that's what that is. China, communism. What are we going to be? So into that vacuum comes the decision point for all of humanity, and especially Americans. Because this moment isn't just about geopolitics. This is truly about who sets the table and the agenda for the next 100 years. Who's it going to be? A global government? The Chinese government? AI, some technocratic government? Or the American government? This, like it or not, we are in a war. I've been saying we're in World War III for a while. You just don't realize it yet, because it's going to be fought differently. And hopefully it won't get any worse than this. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. What that means is AI, quantum computing, advanced manufacturing, all of it is going to determine who leads the world. And it is critical. Whoever gets to AI first wins. This is not about speeches, not about summits. There's not about climate panels. This is all about resources, energy, capital, supply chains, data. And I know I already said energy, but let me just say it in a different way. Power. Okay? That's the battlefield. That's what we're playing for.
Okay, so there are two more clips. The last one is going to be the most powerful. It's going to just tie all the loose ends together. At this point, though, this is where the conversation does get it has to mature. We've talked about it many times on the program. I was a technology correspondent for Next Tech News in Vero Beach, and I've always stayed up to date with what's happening. But first and foremost, I'm a Christian who reads his word and stays up to date on current events, right? And so I do not believe that there are so many prophetic scriptures, right? I believe the Lord is coming again. But there are so many scriptures that cannot be fulfilled right now. They couldn't have been fulfilled 10 years ago, 20 years, 100 years ago, right? Whenever I read certain scriptures, I think to myself, this cannot be fulfilled if this type of technology doesn't exist. And the type of technology that it would take to fulfill, in my opinion, the rest of the prophetic scriptures that need to take place before Jesus returns, that technology is being built right now. We have entered into, about 10 years ago now, into the fourth industrial revolution. And whoever masters AI and quantum computing will literally they'll be the king of the earth. Whatever that country is, whoever does that will be the king of the earth. That's what China, Iran, Russia, that's what they're all fighting for. That's what we're fighting for, is this AI space type of race. You see, AI is not just, it's not just innovation. It's control infrastructure, okay? Like I said, whoever controls energy controls AI. And for those that can kind of take an aerial view of things, you can kind of see where I'm probably heading, right? Whoever controls AI controls surveillance. Whoever controls AI controls economies. Whoever controls AI controls militaries, controls governance, okay? So when we talk about Venezuela, we're not talking about oil for gas prices, right? We're talking about power for the next century. That's the fork in the road. And Venezuela sits at that fork. This is not about Venezuela. This is about China. This is about Iran. This is about Russia. This is about them using Venezuela to destabilize the West, to set up a new governing body of equal member states. Here's the truth. None of these countries can challenge the United States on their own, okay? They can't. China can't, Russia can't, Iran can't. But if America declines, if America loses confidence in itself, then suddenly a coalition can do what no single nation could. And for decades, for sure, the entirety of my life, for decades, that decline wasn't restrained, right? It wasn't resisted. It was managed, whether it was Clinton or Bush or Obama or Biden. That's why Americans were taught to believe their country isn't special anymore. Because decline only works if the people stop believing in the nation. All right, we have this clip and then one more after this, all right? Here's Glenn on what this new axis, this China, Russia, Iran, this new axis of power, because he talks about it. He goes, we are in World War III right now. It's, it's a Cold War, and we pray to God it doesn't go hot. I think that obviously at one point in time, it's going to. But here is Glenn on what this axis of power is attempting to do.
Their stated goal is not a multipolar world. It's not freedom, it's not liberty, but it's a world where no one nation can stop the elites, where the dollar is dethroned, the authoritarian system, whatever it is, flourishes under the cover of balance of power. So we've been putting all those pieces into place. Our government, our congressmen, our senators, our presidents have been saying one thing to our face, but they've been putting all of these things into place for the last 50 years, especially in the last 20 years. This has just been accelerated, and they've been putting it into place and building this system piece by piece, year after year. And then Trump came back. The first time they had to destroy him because they knew he doesn't view the world that way. He doesn't view America that way. He views it differently. He believes America is a special place and needs its own place at the table. They had to destroy him. They thought they were going to keep him out of office. They didn't. And in that 4 years between 20 and 24, he figured a lot out. I mean, I am amazed at what I am seeing. You can disagree with it. But just like I said with the progressive movement that took 100 years to put in place, I have said someday people will study this and go, look at the brilliance of this plan. Look at how they just dismantled the entire West. It is brilliant. It's evil, but it's brilliant. Let me say the same thing. I don't know who the advisors are that he's listening to. I don't know if he just woke up in the middle of the night and he's like, no, this is the way it is. I don't know. But we're going to look back at this time, assuming that it works, And we're going to say, that was brilliant.
All right. One more clip after this, okay? And then we're going to land this plane. This is where you really need to slow down and really think. Glenn isn't saying there's, some movie villain's secret meeting where everyone agrees on everything. He's saying something much simpler and much more dangerous, that over time, a system was built that doesn't want strong nations. It wants managed nations. A world where no single country can say no, because right now that exists and it's America. Where currencies can be replaced, where unelected systems outlast elected leaders. And when someone shows up who doesn't accept that worldview, who actually believes America is unique and America is a novel idea worth defending, the system panics. That's why the reaction to Trump was never normal. It wasn't political disagreement. The reaction wasn't normal because it was a threat response. And now here's the important part. None of this explains how this plays out yet in the real world, unless you understand energy. And I need you to lock in here, all right? What I'm about to play is the most important clip of the entire show. This isn't commentary. We're not just going on good vibes here, okay? This explains why Venezuela matters, why this administration acted, and why the media keeps missing the point. If you've been asking, why this country? Why now? Why take the risk? This answers all of it. Listen carefully, because once you see this, everything's gonna click. Here's Glenn Beck breaking down the energy side of the equation.
Do you know that because of Venezuela, we don't need the oil? I'm going to get into this here in a second. We don't need the oil. Do you know that this is the first time since FDR that the world's resources are now back under American, not control, but in friendly territory? That we're the ones that dominate not just our oil, but the resources. I think it's 50 or 60% of the resources now around the world are now dominant. It wasn't like that 2 years ago. A year ago, it wasn't like that. Okay, so I want to go over. I put a chalkboard up, and if you're watching us at glennbeck.com, you'll see Venezuela, China, Iran. They're all connected. All of these things are connected. And if somebody tells you this is all about the oil, listen to them. Because it is, but I don't know if they understand what they're even saying about that, and I'll explain in a second. If they're saying, well, this is about drugs, okay, this is about terror, this is about the hemisphere, this is about the U.S. military and the war machine. Yes, to all of those things. So let me pull them apart. First of all, right now, Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, 303 billion barrels. That's $17+ trillion at the current market value. They also claim about 8,000 to 10,000 tons of gold that is still in ground. Okay. Now, here's the part you're not being told. With all of that oil, we don't need the oil. Have you noticed the gas prices? They keep coming down. We don't need the oil. We need to pull the oil out of the ground ourselves, which we are. We need to refine it ourselves, which we are. China needs the oil. China buys 60 to 90% of all of Venezuela's crude exports. China also buys 85 to 90% of all of the oil from Iran. China also buys nearly half of all Russian oil. What's happening right now? Well, 60 to 90% of all of the exports from Venezuela now not going to China. How is China going to be able to power all of their electricity needs? How are they going to do that if they don't get oil? from Venezuela. Oh, and what else has been destabilized this weekend? Iran. They buy 85 to 90% of all of the oil in Iran, and those are huge oil reserves as well. So when people say this isn't about oil, or this is about oil, the argument goes back and forth. No, it's not about oil. We don't need it. No, it absolutely is about oil, but not for us. This is about Donald Trump, again, playing to win the long game. You're not going to have any of the oil from Western allies. Not going to happen. We don't need you to win because you have all of the energy. You're not going to do it. We need the energy. The West needs the energy, and you're not pulling it out of our hemisphere. Okay, if Iran and Venezuela fall at the same time, China loses 70% of its non-U.S. regulated oil supply. 70%. What else does that mean besides AI? You lose 70% of your oil from that's non-U.S. You lose 70%. What else can't you do? Well, you can't go into Taiwan. You certainly can't have a war with Taiwan. You can't have AI dominance. There's no BRICS reserve currency. So just on the oil front, absolutely it's about oil, but not the way everybody, oh, that's because Exxon's going to get rich. No, because if you shut down the oil, no war in Taiwan because they don't have the energy to do it, no AI dominance because they won't have the energy to do it, and no BRICS currency. Game over for now. That's why this matters. And that's only one piece of this. Here's what Marco Rubio said over the weekend. We don't need Venezuela's oil. What we're not going to allow, however, is for the oil industry in this hemisphere to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. Is that imperialism? Or is that the defense of the hemisphere?
That's it. Come on. I mean, that's great. That's good. That explains why Venezuela mattered, why it happened now, and why this administration made the move it did. And let me be very clear about something. This was not about regime change for regime change's sake. It was not about Donald Trump's ego. I'm sure he feels pretty good about it, right? But it was a lot more. It was not about some oil company getting rich. It was not about flexing military power, which we did. It was not about removing Maduro just to make the headlines feel dramatic. This was about leverage through energy. And leverage only matters if you intend to use it. You don't stop wars with speeches. You don't stop global domination plans with summits. You stop them by removing the fuel that makes them possible. Energy powers what? It powers militaries. Energy powers AI. Energy powers economies, currencies, supply chains, right? And once you understand that, you stop reacting to headlines and you start seeing the board clearly. That's where we're at. And for anyone asking, why a Christian ministry is talking about this is because the Bible never told believers to ignore the systems shaping the world. Scripture is clear that in the last days, power consolidates, commerce is controlled, and the truth is pressured. You cannot understand the times we're moving toward if you refuse to look at how energy, how technology, and how authority are being organized right now. And I want to say this, it's important. Jesus says to know the signs of the times that we're living, and we're not setting dates. I would never do that. I'm very, very opposed to that. We're not claiming prophecy is being fulfilled right now, today. It's setting the stage. The props are being set on the stage. And we keep giving these little reprieves. But we are obeying what Jesus told us to do, which is to watch. Because systems that can control energy can control economies. Systems that control economies can control people. And Christians are never called to be blind to that. This show exists to help you discern the times without fear and without ignorance. Nations rise and systems fall, but the kingdom of God is unshakable. Amen. Golly, I'm out of time. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I'll see you all next week.